Welcome to the program. 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 You're listening to the Cruel and Unusual Sit-Down podcast. Pew, pew. I was determined to find my voice. So I looked high and low, and before long, by and by, at first I thought it might be on the tip of my tongue, but it wasn't. Then one day I just said it. I found my voice. It was in the larynx. So you ever go to someone's house, they just got a new house, and you go, they for some reason invite you over there, and you go into that place, whatever it is, and then the first thing they tell you is, pardon the mess. So you're standing there, they say pardon the mess, and then you're standing there like they got a get out of jail free card here. But then you got to look around, so you look, and I noticed that the place is cleaner than my conscience when I lied about my diet yesterday. And I'm looking around saying, what, did a speck of dust just wink at me? And, no, but then you have to sit there and go, oh, no, this is nothing. This is nothing. You should see the pigsty I stay at. You should take a look at that place if you want to see some bad company. It's a bad place. Pardon the mess. You don't get away with it. You shouldn't get away with it. Whoever said kill two birds with one stone doesn't understand how birds are. First of all, you're not going to hit even one bird with a stone. You ever thrown a stone at a bird? Birds are just going to fly off. Birds don't care about your feelings, and you're not going to hit more than one. If you do hit one, the other ones are going to fly off, but you're not even going to hit one. It's a myth. Two birds with one stone is a myth. And by the way, what kind of dick throws a stone at a beautiful bird? What a fucking loser. Shouldn't even throw one stone at one bird, not much less two birds. And then they have to make a aphorism about it. Ugh. Just turn my head in disgust. What a disgusting society. So some of my acts and my material is actually going on to this podcast. Oh, that's my vacuum cleaner. I don't know if you can hear it. But I'm I'm working with these guys. One of them, he doesn't have a name. He refuses to give anyone his name. And then the other one is named Casey Anthony. There's these two characters that I met, and they used to be involved with the loose cigarette business a long time ago. And now they're installing rooftop gardens. They're rooftop landscapers now. I kind of fell into that. And so then they're putting together this podcast, and they approached me that they wanted to put some of my material. So you might hear some of my material actually. Well, this might actually go in there. I don't know, but hopefully not. Yeah, these guys, they are something else. So this one guy, he is friends with this piece of shit that's famous because it sued the asshole that plopped it out on the street. And so this guy, he's like the de facto expert on the subject. I think he's actually the one who produced the feces myself, but I can't confirm it. He refuses to give his name. He says that once you give them your name, then they can call you anytime they want. I said, well, you can always have a secret name, but they won't. And his friend Casey Anthony is as insane as a person as I've ever met. I hope you don't hear this, but he says Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. And he has like hundreds of reasons why that, Hitler was, a DNA of Hitler was cloned in 1943 before he died. And then he doesn't believe Adolf Hitler ever perished either. That's another. Casey Anthony, I don't know if you ever heard of him. These guys are crazy. So they approached me and they basically said they're going to pay me for my voice for their podcast. So I said, I don't care. I don't think anyone watches it. So as far as I know, they don't have any viewers. They have like maybe 1 or 2 viewers at the most. I was noticing that the viewers were actually them. So I said, yeah, go ahead. You can y'all can put me up there. So yeah, if you hear that, I just wanted to let y'all know in case y'all hear any of that. All right, well, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have enjoy the holidays. Season's greetings. So I call him Casey Anthony and the guy. Now, the guy actually came here from the Middle East. He lived in near the Euphrates River. And he was a pretty young man, and him and his sister just ran away and came here. And so they basically moved to the Bensonhurst projects, and they say the rest is history, but I don't know what that means. But they came here. He said that he had a dream one night. He's dreaming, and God told him that he has to get out of there. He has to, take his, that God has a plan for him. So he came to America, snuck in. Just told him he was already here. He said, yeah, I've been born here the whole time. They said, all right. They said, you're from Europe, right? He's like, yeah, I'm from Europe. What do you think, So that's why, He's like, yeah, of course I'm from Europe. He gets real mad. And then they go, okay, he must be from Europe. Like when they go, hey, how do we know you're from Europe? And he just looks at them and they go, okay. Because if you're angry when they say that, they know you are from Europe. So, Europe. So yeah, and he refuses to give his name. And what else about him? He has a son. By another, not by his wife. So they don't have his name either. And nor does we know what they look like, but he talks about him a lot. He says he's the heir. He's going to be the heir. I think he and Casey Anthony are cousins. Something like that. But I don't know. So they got into they were selling the loose cigarettes right there in front of their building. And I think they were doing so well at it that they ended up getting shut down. And then they were working in front of the Fed for a while, the Fed courthouse. Every story I hear about them is one crazy thing after the next. Casey Anthony goes up to the Fed courthouse and he just gives him the Nazi salute. It says, yep, that's what that is. You better give him the proper salute. He says, he goes into the Bellamy salute. He talks about how the U.S., actually the Nazis, the salute to Hitler, it was here in the U.S. first. It was actually started here. And that's the way they saluted the American flag. But they changed it in like 1942. He keeps going on about it like it has some meaning, but I'm not sure. It is a strange coincidence, I'll say. But then he says that, Casey, he says that the Germans won the war and that it was a fake, they just put up an insurgency, a fake, He talks about how they had the POWs from Germany, which is that's a true thing. Apparently the POWs were top secret, so that the German POWs lived in America, like 500,000 of them lived here. And they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. They could go off campus, play football, drink beer, do whatever they wanted. They had to treat them very nicely, they said. So they said, oh yeah, we have to treat them nice because of the Geneva Convention. But it's kind of strange because the camps over in Germany weren't treating people so nice. So it makes you wonder. Yeah, they weren't going to treat you nice if you were over there. So if you were an American soldier and you happened to be Jewish, they weren't going to be nice to you. They would kill you on sight. But over here, they got to, German soldiers were treated with the greatest respect, and a lot is said about it. They said, they were trying to, win them over. They were trying to win the hearts and minds. Yeah. But they're allowed to stay here, work. They could go off campus and get a job. But the thing is, the American public was never notified about it. That's kind of weird, isn't it? To think about we'd be at war, but we'd have, prisoners in our midst, but no one can talk about it. Okay, I guess they say, and then they say, oh, well, that's what happens during a war. Okay, yeah, but then no one ever found out about it until relatively recently. So that's what Casey Anthony goes on about it worse than I would. I'm not sure. I don't know all the details, but he says that the rainbow flag is not. He says what it is. That's what they gave the soldiers. There was 12 million U.S. soldiers, and they gave them a medal for participating in the conflict of World War II. So every soldier that participated got this award, and it was a rainbow on it. So it was a medal that had a rainbow. And he says that's why the Nazis are against that flag, because that represents the resistance. Remember, the soldiers never gave up. So that's why they're called the greatest generation. But at this point, Casey says they're completely controlling. Everything is completely controlled from Berlin, if not Israel, because he also thinks that Palestine is where Hitler ended up. That's another one of his. I don't believe that though. So don't come back at me on that. That's just a strange thing to say. He said Hitler's in Palestine. I said, well, okay. I let him say it, but then I don't. That's what I'm trying to say. That he's crazy. I mean, well, he doesn't. I think he has a different set of reality factors that he measures. But otherwise, he seems pretty smart. But some of the things he says just defy logic. So if you ever hear me on that podcast and he's saying something, don't attribute it to me. I don't say any of that. I don't believe any of that stuff. I think the United States won the war, and then we became the greatest nation on earth, and then we developed the nuclear bomb on our own with no help from any Germans or of any kind, and I don't think that the German scientists came over here and took everything over. I think that it was all American scientists, and it was because God sent them, and because God sent America to save the world, and then that's why we had to have the conflict in Southeast Asia, which was just we're just trying to help out over there, just trying to, and then we did it in North Korea. We had to just go in there and help out. We had to make sure that, the domino effect of communism, it had nothing. Casey Anthony says it was an invasion, but I don't necessarily buy that. I say it was what they said it was. So, again, if you hear anything that's really crazy that he says, just don't attribute it to me. That's all I'm saying. I think there's some confusion, so I'm going to clear it up a little bit. If you have a thought and it sounds like you're talking to God, it's on you. You have the onus to prove that it's God. Yeah, you have to make sure that it's God and not your thought. If it's your thought, you can't say your thought is God. Also, you have to prove that it's God. How do you know it's God? First, that's one thing. Even if it sounds exactly like God. Maybe you always talk to God. Maybe. And even then, you have to be careful, because isn't there more than one? Isn't there other things talking? And some of them are pretty malicious beings, from what I understand. I don't know much. But maybe if you have a thought where you think God is talking to you, maybe that's just your thought. You have to accept that might just be your thought. I can't come out and start saying that my thoughts were God's thoughts and then expect everyone else to go along with it. So the onus is on you if God's talking to you. That's all. I mean, it's something to consider. It's worth considering. Only because your thoughts, if you think your thoughts are God's thoughts, it's a recipe for disaster. Also, there's a problem if you didn't know that already. There's a real problem if you didn't quite understand what that means from the beginning before I said it. There's a real problem. If you thought your thoughts were coming from space, or they were coming from from the Creator, or the God Almighty, or which we just say is really it's just your thoughts. You may not want to accept it, but the point is that it's on you. Well, imagine that. What if anyone just said, "Yeah, God said it for me," and then everyone said, "Oh, that God said it, so we have to do it." Don't you have to? Don't you have to verify it? Isn't there supposed to be? What happened to vetting? Whatever happened to vetting? We want to vet gun owners. We want to vet immigrants. Why don't we vet God talkers? You ever think of that? Maybe there should be someone who says, I regulate the God talkers. You talk to God, huh? And then they say, no, this person didn't talk to God. They talk to themselves. It's their own thoughts. It'll be a better world. There are people that think that their thoughts can be attributed to God. That's what's going on. And even if they really did come from God, the onus is on the person who's talking to prove. And also, you wouldn't, as a person, okay, I'm a person too, and I also exist. Let's say I heard a message from the space, or from God, literally from Almighty God, which I have before. It left me sadder than anything after it was over, because I was lost. I've suffered greatly, because once you talk to God, you fall apart if God's gone. So I don't know how they survived it either. That's another thing. The time I talked to God, it was like the death of the world. It felt like everybody I knew died. It was like the saddest day of my life. And then when God didn't return, because God said that he would be speaking to me much later, but not anytime soon. But that he said, just be waiting for a message, though, And so yeah, I had that experience. But you didn't see me going out and telling people that they had to do what my thoughts were, because God told me. God told me to go tell everyone, but I assumed that it was such a sad thing. I didn't want for them to have to know it. I didn't think it wouldn't help them. I was just going off the rails a little bit. Okay, but the point remains. But you can't. It doesn't take away the point. It's just like earlier in this year, there was a group of Republicans in Congress, and they said something about they started casting aspersions, and they claimed they had a whistleblower. They touted a whistleblower for a long time. Some of the ugliest people you'll ever see. It must be the stupidest people. Well, God talks to them. Earlier this week, they upgraded the zygote, the fetus. The zygote, the fetus, is now been upgraded to a child. If zygotes are children now, what's next? Are we going to start assigning homework to sperm and eggs? Maybe we'll have to set up tiny cribs in the fallopian tubes. I can only already see the prenatal preschools popping up. Who would have ever guessed that reproduction would become such an academic pursuit? Once you get pregnant, you can claim maternity leave now. The minute of conception, call in. That's it. I have a child. It's already here. It's a child. There's already a child. I can't come to work.
And I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Okay, listen up, folks. I've had it up to here with these so-called belts. You know what I'm talking about. Those sneaky strips of leather and metal that think they can just waltz around our waists, acting like they own the place. And then, to add insult to injury, I hear this news today. A belt was arrested for holding up a pair of pants on the Lower East Side. It's about the principle. These belts think they're above the law. With their little belt loops and shiny buckles. They've been tightening their grips on us for too long. It's time to take a stand. No more letting belts hold us back, both literally and figuratively. We need to buckle down here and put an end to this madness. Our pants deserve better, darn it. Dang it. So mark my words, folks. The era of belt tyranny ends now. From here on out, we wear our pants with pride, unencumbered by the tyranny of those waist-wielding culprits. Join me in the fight against belt oppression. I would now like to play a song for you. Although it escapes me the name of the composition, that tune has always been something close to me. It's sort of, to me, almost like an anthem. So let's see if we can go down this list here. You know, this shit had a grievance. He says, hey, he wants to get back up that guy's asshole. So, he said the guy shit him out, plopped him out on the street like that. He should have been in the toilet. He said, hey, he had a case because, he'd been plopped on the street there. It made him dry out. He could have stayed moist and warm in the guy's asshole, but he didn't because the guy didn't put him in the proper place. He said, hey, you know what? If I had been flushed down the toilet, there's nothing I could do about it. You know, he conceded that right away. The piece of shit conceded it. He said, hey, yeah, you're right. If I had been flushed down the toilet, I can't say nothing about it. Yeah, but But that's not what happened. He said, hey, this guy plopped me out on the street. That's just a fact. That's the fact of the case. You can't deny it because I'm here on the street. He said, look, I'm here on the street. I'm caged in. He says, I'm caged in on the street. You can't prove that. You can't say that I wasn't here. They said, well, there might be some problems with the, they said some of the feces might have been handled a couple of times by some well-meaning individuals. But nonetheless, the shit was being handled. They said there could be a problem with the evidentiary chain of ownership there. That's what they said. So, but then as the proceedings went on, there came up a new case because there was a countersuit filed by the next shit. So the next shit in the guy's asshole says, hey, no way, you can't. He says, look, what you're proposing right now, what this piece of shit's trying to propose right now is contradictory to my old rights is a piece of shit up in someone's asshole. He said, look, I'm up in this asshole. I have rights. He said, if I wasn't in the asshole, I would have certain rights. But now that I'm in there, he says, hey, because I'm up, look. He says, hey, because I have certain rights when I'm in the asshole. I have certain rights. And he says, look, you can't, what you're proposing takes away my rights as a piece of shit in the guy's asshole. He says he inherits these rights. Like they pass down. And he inherited them. And, he's going to use them, he says. He says he can't have a new piece of shit shoved up there. He said it would upset the balance of his own body when he gets out, when he gets plopped out. He said, God forbid, if he was put on the street, he wouldn't like it, but he's hoping he's going to get a toilet. He says the odds are pretty good, but he said there's no way he's going to accept an old piece of shit being shoved back up there. He said his own rights. Now then, next thing you know, contents of the stomach are talking. They got their own claims. They say, hey, look. This is going to affect us. He starts shoving shit back up in there. They say, hey, look, he starts shoving shit back up. It's going to start affecting us up here. Yeah. Next thing you know, you got lettuce out there. You got tomatoes. You got pretty much every ingredient from a hamburger out there is saying, hey, every hamburger ingredient in the world is making a claim saying, hey, look, we could end up in this shit. That could affect us. You start running shit back up through this guy. They said, hey, that affects everybody. It affects the whole chain. So they filed a class action. And then they filed a class action together against the claim of the shit, of the original shit. Well, it wasn't enough. So they got the seeds. They took the seeds of all the plants. And they got the eggs. And they said, hey, if you start shoving shit back up in there like that, you're going to affect the whole chain. We're part of it. You have to affect us. We can't. That's going to affect us too. Yeah. So, yeah. The piece of shit got evicted out of that asshole. He said, hey, that's an eviction. He said, hey, look, this amounts to an eviction here. I was evicted illegally. I wasn't given any warning. Wake up one morning. Next thing you know, I'm out on the street. The guy throws me out on the street. He didn't even let me know about it. He didn't even give me any notification. Yeah. Imagine that. He never even gave me notification. So, usually, there's a standard procedure. You're supposed to get notification when something like that happens. It's a normal procedure. But this guy, I don't know what he ate. I don't know what else happened. Yeah, I think some people think he might have been drinking. That's why that happened. But we don't know. No one knows. But in the end, he got evicted from the guy's asshole. And then the judge threw out his case. Same thing. Same result. But he's got protected status. So, he's still out there. Yeah. All right. Well, I got to get out of here. Oh, yeah, I'll talk to you later. All right. Pew. Pew. This has been the Cruel and Unusual Sit-Down Podcast. Coming to you weekdays at 11. Hey YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe.